A slightly minty dark chocolate with oud and spices. Does this sound appealing to you? Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances and this is a practical review of Nasomatto Pardon. These reviews are for fragrances I have a lot of experience with, multiple wearers in many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As usual, despite doing a lot of research before buying anything these days, I won't be going into details about notes and accords. First of all, because Nasomatto, in this case, does not disclose any official notes. Second of all, I don't feel that the note breakdown necessarily helps the end user understand what it feels to wear the fragrance. Before diving into the presentation and scent profile of this fragrance, I want to spare a couple words for Alessandro Gualtieri. Alessandro Gualtieri is the nose and mind behind Nasomatto and Orto Parisi. I think he's an absolute genius both in marketing and in fragrance development, and he is one of my favorite perfumers ever. All his creations are really unique. They are first and foremost really good fragrances. Second of all, they are statement pieces and art pieces that really ride that thin line between seriousness and irony. Alessandro Gualtieri is a very provoking and ironic person. He constantly teased the public with ideas of sex, dirtiness, and just rawness of his fragrance and products. Just think of Black Afghano, one of his most popular fragrances ever, a fragrance that I've reviewed, by the way, which is named after a variant of hashish. Or Sadonaso, which is basically was marketed as this like latexy, sex-driven, sweat-driven scent profile. I mean, everything is there to provoke a reaction. Everything is there to sell a product. The marketing is absolutely genius. So let's get back to Pardon. Pardon is actually one of the more pedestrian offerings from Nasomatto. The marketing doesn't really lean into any specific direction. Similarly to Baraonda though, this is one appreciated fragrance from the community. Everyone likes it. It has super high grades on Fragrantica and Parfumo, and it's deserved. I mean, this is an absolutely amazing, deep, rich, almost gourmand fragrance. But before that, we must talk about the presentation. So Nasomatto comes in these really iconic looking little bottles. They're all 30 ml. The caps are absolutely wonderful. They're all made of a specific material. This one here is some sort of a really dense wood. It's beautiful. All of Alessandro Gualtieri's fragrances are extrait de parfum, so don't be put off by the 30 ml. These are powerful, powerful fragrances that will last a long time. 2 sprays with this goes a very, very long way. The juice in here, you have this like weird green. It doesn't really reflect the fragrance feeling at all to me, but it does contrast well with the brown cap. The boxes for Nasomatto are also really interesting. They're fairly simple cardboard things, but they're all unique in their own right. And all these fragrances come with a little handy travel cap, so instead of carrying around this bulky thing or damaging it, you can plop on the little cap for travel and just take the whole thing with you. It's great. I'm a huge fan. The atomizers also on these are super, super good. Surprisingly good, actually. Let's give it a spritz. Yeah, beautiful. Powerful. You get a lot of juice out there. And these are really, they have an exceptionally long travel. It's easy to go like half a spray. And in the case of these fragrances, you might want to start off with half a spray. Similarly to Black Afghano, this can be a polarizing scent. This is a very strong scent and definitely will turn heads. So I would advise to learn how to get used to it like a bit by bit, but just like adding half a spray, see how that goes, add a full spray, see how that goes, etc. So yeah, I mean, presentation, I think it's a 10 out of 10. Am I biased? I like the guy. Yes, I like Alessandro Gualtieri, I like his products, but these are truly really beautiful fragrances that really sit perfectly on a shelf, especially if you have more than one. If you have them sitting next to each other with their weird funky caps, it's beautiful. It's super great. Alessandro Gualtieri does not disclose notes and accords. I think it's great that he does that, and that allows everyone to sort of have their own interpretation and not overthink the contents of the bottle. I think that disclosing too many notes, especially if the fragrance is complex, doesn't really help the user in any way. I think that smelling this and kind of getting your own idea of what's going on is way better. So the opening for this is strong. So I mentioned that this is an earthy scent. I stand by it. I think that it could be categorized as an earthy scent. The immediate thing you smell from this is a strong oud. And this is like an oud that Alessandro Gualtieri uses in a lot of his perfumes. I can pick it up in Black Afgano. It's the same type of oud of Black Afgano. I can pick it up in his offering from Orto Parisi, Terroni. I can also pick it up in Stercus. So he has a very specific oud note, which is a type of oud that is smoky, not overly pungently smoky, but it's like a kind of a sweet smokiness and damp and earthy. So it's that kind of oud. It's not balsamic. It's just kind of I wouldn't say it's even fecal. It doesn't smell like wood. It smells just like damp earth with a sweet undertone, like kind of like a chocolatey vibe to it. All of his fragrances have this sort of oud here. All the fragrances that have oud have this sort of oud. I think it's really good. I think it's really pleasant. Is it real oud? I'm not really sure. Does it matter? Not really. I mean, Alessandro Gualtieri is known to use a lot of synthetics, so I'm not going to overthink this. These, by the way, given the price, I'm not really expecting real oud here. You can get these. I think the official price in Europe is about $150 for this. So I'm not expecting this like crazy, unique, exclusive ingredients in here. So as I said, the opening, you get this blast of oud, and then you get something accompanying this oud. You get some sort of a floral, some sort of a herbal floral note, because again, it is sweet. It's not green per se, but it's this sweet aromatic component to it. It might be some sort of a flower. It might be a touch of mint that gives the oud and gives the main body of this scent, which is dark chocolate. You get this really rich dark chocolate. It gives it this, it elevates it a little bit. It gives it a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of an edge. It kind of smells like one of those mint chocolate mints, like an after eight. What are they called? I'm not really sure. So it's very slight, but it's there. But the main thing, again, is this like deep earthiness. So there's a lot of earthiness, there's a lot of oud, there's a lot of like chocolate patchouli going on. Patchouli is a note that I've learned to pick up a lot. And in this case, it's a kind of a wet, dirty, earthy, smoky patchouli that goes together with the oud and probably with the actual present dark chocolate. You just kind of like underline this earthiness. It's like these three components that come together. They give this really dense like fudge and like brownie kind of chocolate feel. It's not sweet. It's almost boozy. It's like that kind of it's sweet in a way that's kind of like fermented sweet, if that explains anything. So I think that kind of a fermented funkiness comes from the oud. And the chocolate, and then you have this patchouli that reinforces this already heavy fragrance, but with that sparkle, that mint sparkle. I think it's really interesting. The dry down of this, so basically that's the opening and most of the mid. This is a fairly linear scent, so it doesn't really transition massively. I think that once that minty edge goes away, you start picking up on other spices that come into play and give it a little bit more of a gourmand feel. So there is definitely something like cinnamon or nutmeg, some sort of a sweet spice that comes in and just adds to this like chocolate vibe. I wouldn't say, like, if you would ask a stranger to smell it and tell you what they smell, they probably would not say chocolate. So it's that kind of subtle. It's also like the funkiness kind of takes over the chocolateness. So it's not your stereotypical chocolate fragrance or chocolate smell. It's not like smelling a box of chocolates. This is more like chocolate powder that has been mixed in like with earth. And I can't explain it in any other way. I mean, that's what comes to mind. Kind of like this like dough made of like damp earth and chocolate powder and some spices in it. Completely not edible. I know it doesn't sound completely appetizing, but that's what I get. And the smell is really good. I think it's really intriguing in a way. It's not offensive. It's very strong, but I wouldn't say it's offensive. I wouldn't say it's something that just turns people away. If anything, it will get people to come closer and be more interested in what you smell like. The initial projection on this is large. It's large. You might be tempted to overspray this. Don't. I oversprayed once and I was completely choked out. And I was driving and my car smelled like this for like 2 days. It's really, really strong. It's subtly strong. Maybe because it's a type of smell that our noses get really used to fast. Maybe it's because it's so dense that you don't really perceive it as bright or like strong, but it really like lingers. It really lingers around. What is this for? Who is this for? This is, I think that the use case for this is relatively limited. It's such a unique flavor that I don't think this can be your signature scent. I would definitely not really want to wear this in the high heat. I would probably double think wearing this in the office because, again, it's not offensive, but it's very particular. I don't really see anyone disliking it per se, but it doesn't really give office vibes. This one here, I think it's it's a dark scent, so it works well in the evening, it works well in the winter. This would be a great home scent. This would be a great dinner out. It doesn't really project a lot in the mid and in the dry down, so it's a great like restaurant scent because it's not like it's overwhelming what's on the table. The worst thing ever is that if you go out to eat and your fragrance or someone else's fragrance is just completely overpowering what the food smells like. That's like, this one's not like that. You almost want to save it for like people that are close to you, like a close group of friends or family. You don't want to really waste it on a crowd. It doesn't really feel like that. It doesn't give me that center of attention kind of vibe. This is not that. If you overspray this, it gets way too strong. And the fragrance scent profile doesn't really encourage openness. It doesn't really give this openness vibe. This is like quiet elegance. This is like refined elegance. This is it's an intimate scent. Definitely it's an intimate scent. Overall, I think that Alessandro Gualtieri knocked this one out of the park. The Nasomatto line is a lot more abstract compared to the Orto Parisi line. The Orto Parisi brand, the fragrance, really wants to transport the wearer somewhere. They really wants to tell a story. The Nasomatto, not so much. It's more of they use their daring marketing to actually promote scents that are relatively approachable. And I think this one here is really, really great. The name doesn't really suggest anything, so it's not like people are put off like in the way like Sadonaso is. So I really encourage people to dive into Nasomatto. I really recommend sampling this. It might not be for everyone. You really need to kind of like oud. You need to like this specific type of oud, and you need to like dark scents. Is it the most wearable? No. Will you wear it every day? Probably not. But I do think it's a great addition to anyone's fragrance wardrobe that goes beyond like dumb reach scents. I hope I piqued your interest with this one. I hope I was informative. Thanks always for watching. Thank you so much for your time. It's absolutely not taken for granted. As per usual, if you have any comments, suggestions, opinions, just leave them down below. I'll be sure to reply. Once again, thank you. See you next time and cheers.